Thank you. Yes, we're holding you back from your lunch, and we can hear your stomachs rumbling, not just the bell now. It's my pleasure to moderate a panel today with some amazing people, not least the Honourable Minister for Trade and Industry, whom you met earlier, but also some leading business people and also diplomats helping develop industrial and manufacturing policy. If I could just invite the panelists just to quickly introduce themselves, starting with the Honourable Minister.
I thought I had already been introduced, but since he insists, my name is Katie Hammond, and I'm the newly minted Minister of Trade and of Industry in Ghana. I arrived here this morning, and I walked straight into this meeting.
Thank you, Minister. Nora.
Yes, okay. So my name is Nora Bannerman. I've been in the clothing and textile industry for over 4 decades, probably 43 years now or so. Yeah, I'm the CEO. Thank you. I'm the CEO of Sleek Garments Export Limited and then Sleek Fashion Limited. We have exported to the US markets. We supply domestic markets. We supply, we mass produce for designers as well. I'm a designer myself. And I started my business with one sewing machine. Today I own an over 300 machine factory, and that's the factory you saw. So yesterday there was mention of the titans in business, and I have much respect for my male colleagues in business, but there was an omission. I think they should have mentioned Nora Bannerman and Sleek Garments Export Limited. Why? Because I put Ghana on the AGOA map. I served on the AGOA Implementation Committee that got Ghana the AGOA visa to now export over 6,000 products to the US market. And apart from that, I wear many hats. I've been one person who continues to engage senior public figures from all levels, right to the highest, seat of government, to offer suggestions and so on. So in the end, I've been placed on 3 boards so that I can do all my talking and push ahead with what agenda will make real what Ghanaian entrepreneurs and investors who invest on our market can do. We will talk about all of that, but this is what I do. It includes, I warned you, you should have introduced me. It's been over 4 decades, so if I were to go into introduction, we'll probably need half an hour. We'll get back to it later.
And you'll all have the opportunity to engage with Nora, one of Ghana's beacon of businesswomen after this panel. Moving on, Solomon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Solomon Asamoah. I'm the CEO of the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund based in Ghana. I'm an infrastructure and financing specialist. Been doing investments in infrastructure across Africa for over 25 years with institutions like the Africa Development Bank, the Africa Finance Corporation, IFC, Development Bank of Southern Africa. Thank you. I'm the CEO of the Ghana Infrastructure Fund now. Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon. And on to British High Commission's very own Nana Frimpong.
So my name is Nana, and I work at the British High Commission. Unfortunately, I'm a public servant. I can't lay claim to being an entrepreneur, but before I turned up at the British High Commission, I was an entrepreneur. I'm working with businesses to land them in emerging markets. But I like to call myself a kind of a public servant entrepreneur because the work that we do in the British High Commission is about connecting investments into Ghana, but also supporting Ghana's own industrial transformation, working very closely with the Minister of Trade, but also with UOFI Grant as well.
Thank you. And last but not least, one of Ghana's biggest personalities in the business space, Dan Macaulay.
My name is Daniel Macaulay. I work for McDan Group.
Thank you very much. Minister, over the past 6 years, we've seen the introduction of a number of new initiatives in the manufacturing space to develop and create prosperity and jobs, such as the 1D, 1F program. Could you outline areas of manufacturing that have been a success? What areas do you think the private sector have missed where there are the opportunities to invest into the manufacturing space?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. we've been debating this point since whatever. We can't develop our economies following what we've done for ages. Since the Neanderthal period, our mothers, fathers, grandfathers, great-grandfathers, they have been involved in agricultural, tiny holdings. We simply haven't developed much. Presidents, and particularly our president, has been telling the whole world that, look, the colonization time, all those periods, you cannot develop economy. It's trite knowledge. Everybody knows this. Industrial Revolution in Britain, American revolutions, all the developed economies of the world. Now you call them G7, G8, they give themselves different Gs at different times. But the Gs, they have all developed on the back of industrialization. You just can't do the kind of things that we have been doing. So we got to take a very positive strides. Get into different gear, very high gear, and then see whether our economies are transformed. So one of the things that our government, our president came out with is that, yes, we want to develop our economies. We want to join the ranks of the industrialized economy. But what we do, we've been crawling for a very long time. It's about decision is whether we start working properly or we run. You've got to be careful that your feet are firmly on the ground before you run. So let's start with the 1D that you talk about. For those of you who are not conversant with this 1D, 1F issue, it's one district, one factory. And it is this. There are about 261 districts in Ghana. We think that, we do know as a matter of fact that every single, or maybe 2 or 3, some districts, I'm not sure some, districts in Ghana are respectively endowed with different natural resources. On the basis of economies of scale, districts should decide together with the local administration what they think that they are properly capable of producing. We're not going to do our grandfather's kind of thing. This time there must be some effort at adding value to what is it that they have been producing, industrialization, manufacturing kind of thing. 1D, 1F, just come out yourself. Nobody impose it on them. They themselves should come up with whatever they thought that was capable of production at the economy of scale. Government was going to do something. It's an intervention by government. These are the areas, these are the districts. You know what is it that you can properly do. Private sector, we're throwing this up to you. Get in there and decide. If you decide to do a manufacturing in this particular district, the government will help. So this is what the government said. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we had an after program, a conference in Accra. I think it was the African Leaders Forum. President Obasanjo and the others were in attendance. He made a statement, I think it got everybody laughing. It was about financing, which has been discussed today. He said that he himself, President Obasanjo, everybody knows President Obasanjo of Nigeria, of Africa. We know he's a farmer. He tried to raise some money for his farming activities. It took him 6 years. He wouldn't get the money. He did indicate that if you want to raise money of the kind that you would need to develop, to do your manufacturing thing, he said you need to sell some very hard drugs. He did mention the drugs. I'm in England, so I'm afraid I'm not going to mention this. So again, my diplomatic status becomes compromised, so I won't mention it. So he mentioned it, and you need to be selling that sort of thing to be able to get the money. So the president's and the cabinet's and government's idea is this, that we don't have the kind of facility that we're able to raise in substantial form for you. But this is what we're going to do for you. We are going to get together a group of banks, and we call them the participating financial institutions. As I think they are 15, headed by the Ghana as a bank, and 14 others. Actually, that's why I was paying quite a lot of interest in my colleague who came to speak. Gessel or whatever. I met with the financial institutions, and the name of Gessel came out. They thought the company was able to do all sorts of magic for us. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know who it was. It turned out that my schoolmate, actually my classmate, my very good friend. So I have commandeered him to meet me in Accra on Tuesday. If he's here, he says that he won't come. If he doesn't come, I'll get him arrested. So we're going to get these financial institutions. Make sure you grant them the minimum capital that they want, they ask for. Now, of the capital that you're going to give them, government is prepared to reach a rapprochement, some sort of compromise with yourselves. We're going to cap the interest rate that you charge them at a certain rate, a certain level. Now, at that level, government was going to bear 50% of that. At that point, it was about 20% of interest rate. I was told recently that the basic was about 16 or something. They added for their troubles some 4%. So it was 20, government agreed. Of the 20, the banks charge them 50%, which is 10%, and government will add 10%. And then, earlier in the other program that I participated in, we talked about all the other facilities that have been put in place statutorily and then administratively. We also indicated that they should be granted, those companies that were setting up, we should grant them exemptions in all the various taxes, give them tax holidays, also give them exemptions, and then let's see how they fare. So I know we are doing a Speedy Gonzales business here. That's why I'm rushing through, because everybody's hungry. We've got to go. So that is the basis of the 1D, 1F. As it is now, we have about 296 of them in the various districts of Ghana. Let's confess, not in all the districts of Ghana, but in many of the districts of Ghana. We have about 123 companies which are doing effectively very well. A few of them are not doing 100% well. We have about a few which are also in the pipeline. Now, you ask, what is it that we're getting out of this? They are doing it very well, but it is set up as a basis for our industrialization, and to the extent that in this small, on this tiny, not tiny, but minimal basis, businessmen could start our process of industrialization and manufacturing. And they've gone into many, many items. Maybe sector completeness, I could also add that about close to about 60% of these companies are in the agro business, and they are doing fairly well. Your last segment of the question suggests that there are areas that companies may not have maybe quite grappled with properly. I am not sure. The emphasis had always been on the agricultural produce because that is where our strength is. And so most of these companies have decided to concentrate their resources on that, where, as I said, the issue of economies of scale could properly be segmented. So that's about it. Poultry and the other things all feed into the 60% that I've indicated. We need a bit more time to discuss this matter. But go on, if you come back to me, we'll
No, I'll definitely come back to you. You'll have the last word.
Thank you.
Nana, just on the points the Minister has said, he's talked about a number of the policy positions that the government took. As FCDO, you've been leading the JET program that we've heard mentioned a number of times over the last 2 days. And there you've been supporting the government on policy development. Can you give the audience a sense of the work, the outputs that work has achieved, and what's the direction of the JET program and policy developments in the manufacturing space?
I think I want to start off by sort of agreeing with the Minister that, that transformation is absolutely critical. And it's happening, and it can be done. Clearly, there are some challenges around economies of scale, financing, and a whole range of issues, which I'm sure my panel members will get into. But in particular, in what we've done, when we supported the government of Ghana, our first reference point was the government's own strategy. Well, where were the sectors? Because I think one of the things to bear in mind is that Ghana can do things, but it can't do all things. It has to work in sectors that it has a right to win, or subsectors that it has the right to win. So one of the things that we did, Steve, was to really work on the kind of market data, feasibility. What was the feasibility of those sectors? Where were the global value chains going? What was the margin analysis? We needed to do that work with the government of Ghana to understand where Ghana had the right to win, and where the tailwinds and the headwinds were. And so we started working with 3 sectors, and I'm amazed. I sit in an Uber today, and that Uber is assembled in Ghana, and it's absolutely amazing to me. In this week, I'm with 2 companies, Solar Taxi and a component manufacturer in Ghana that's suspensions, and I'm sure most people don't know this, and he's exporting to West Africa. And he's with me this week, and we're syndicating financing for those 2 companies. But some of the market feasibility and some of the policy support that we provided to the government, we literally set up a war room, because it's not just about developing a policy. We set up a war room with GIPC and Ministry of Trade, and it was about how can we do the policy, how can we pass the policy, but how can we implement the policy? And some of the things that we looked at in the policy implementation is how does customs treat the investors, both domestic and international? How do they treat, when they bring things, and how's that treated? So simple things, because, like I said, in manufacturing, the margins are so tiny. And I think Nora is going to talk about the kind of tiny margins. It's about scale, right? So if you have a policy failure, that adds to your margins, and then you can't be competitive within that global space. So in automotive, over 2-3 years, we've brought in $100 million. We've got, the big names, Toyota, VW, they're all assembling in Ghana. In vaccines, basic market analysis, understanding where does Ghana have the right to win. We've got a 77 million vaccine facility, will be the first of Ghana, groundbreak by the President of Ghana last week. So it's, in terms of policy, it's not just about setting the policy, working with the government, but ensuring that there's market data, there's feasibility, understanding of the sectors that you're going to be in, but also making sure that you can implement the policy through the value chains, the customs, standards, the whole range of that. And you also almost have to take a kind of deliberate approach to actually delivering the policy. And so that's what, and I think looking forward, there's so much opportunity, right? So we're looking at, for example, talk about packaging. There's a big space and gap. So pharmaceutical companies that are producing in Ghana are having to import their packaging most of the time. So there's opportunity in packaging. There is opportunity in downstream auto component for aftercare. There's a lot of analysis that we've done. So there's a lot of interest, and we'd like to invite people to come and work with us in this area.
So further opportunities in manufacturing downstream or upstream in the sectors that are supporting. But Solomon, that will need infrastructure, and as head of the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Funds, how is the fund looking to provide the connecting infrastructure for the manufacturing base to thrive?
Thank you very much. For those of you not aware, the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund is a government-owned investment vehicle that was established by the government of Ghana and given $325 million of anchor equity with a mandate to invest and develop infrastructure assets across Ghana. $325 million is a substantial amount of money, and we thank the government for those funds that were given to us. But compared to the infrastructure deficits in Ghana, it's quite small. So the only way we can have an impact is if we can leverage the private sector and bring them alongside into our investments. So in the last 5 or 6 years or so, we've been very busy. We have a portfolio of 13 infrastructure investments. We have invested $300 million, but most importantly, for every $1 that we've put in an investment, we've managed to raise $10 from other sources to invest alongside us. So when our projects are completed, the $300 million will be transferred into $3 billion of investment into Ghana. And we've done projects such as the new airport terminal, where we're part of the financing. We've just completed a major expansion of Ghana's second port, Takoradi Port, with a $250 million expansion, which will be commissioned and start operating probably next month. We've done investments in the ICT sector. We've done investments in the gold mining sector. We've done investments in various sectors across Ghana. We're about to do Ghana's first major toll road project. We're hoping to cut sod on that in the next couple of months. So these are all the infrastructure type projects which will facilitate ease of movement to transfer of people and goods across Ghana for more efficiency for manufacturing. The other area that I think I would just emphasize is important is that we must bring down Ghana's operating costs. So the power sector, the energy sector is an important facilitator. We need to do more work in the road sector as well in Ghana. But that's the role of the infrastructure fund, is to try and improve the infrastructure so the manufacturing sector can get their goods to market quite easily and more efficiently.
Great, thank you for that. Dan, you're one of Ghana's most successful business person and supporting the young entrepreneurs coming through. What has been your journey in terms of the manufacturing base, and also for the foreign investors here today? You know, there's really a need to find local partners to be able to help deal with local risks in the investment. How can companies get visibility on the ecosystem of local partners to work with?
Thank you very much. Doing business in Ghana is one of the best places you can get on the continent. I have traveled length and breadth of Africa. For the past 6 months, I've been to almost half of Africa because I'm heading the after trading company, helping other countries to establish the trading company, which will be the commercial wing of the continental free trade. Ghana is not a place that you should be afraid when you are coming to do business, because there's a lot of money in Ghana. There's a lot of profit to be made in Ghana. I am in there. I've been in the logistics business for 30 years. I'm into mining. Magdan has the biggest salt mine in Africa, 41,000 acres so far. Magdan had invested $88 million into that project. By next year, we'll be mining about 1.2 million metric tons of salt, which will be Africa's biggest salt mine and salt producing company. We are into private aviation, talking about bullion movement, air ambulance, connectivity in the African region. Magdan is into hydro. We are also into agriculture. If you look at what is going on in the continent right now, I will encourage anybody who want to pick a place in Africa to invest, look into Ghana, because I have been around. Though other countries are running, but our policies, our environment is quite conducive for development. I invited one sheikh here. He's sitting over there. He wants to start the smelting company for alumina in Ghana because we have the bauxite. Sheikh, can you raise your hand? He's bringing about $1.6 billion into Ghana to start a smelting company from Aba. So this is what is happening on the continent. The downside of what is going on, and also we are going to start the Black Star line. We procured a vessel which will be Africa's first shipping line, the only African shipping line which almost all Africa will buy into it. I'm just coming from a meeting in Nairobi, and about 5 countries have signed on to it already to be part of it. We just procured 2 cargo planes for the continental free trade. We have been able to build 260,000 square meters of warehouse space for the movement of the continental free trade. So investing, you have to take advantage. All I'm hearing around is the environment, the difficulties and all that. There are solutions. What we have to get towards now is looking for the solutions. We started talking about problems not today. And in Mansort mine, free zones have been able to be partnered, and they have visited there. Anybody who visits the salt mine you'll be amazed because value added. We're going to produce chemicals. We just installed the biggest washing plant in Africa, salt washing plant in Africa. 2 units. It will be commissioned next month. So this is the environment I am talking about. What we have to look at in Africa is the cost of doing business, especially in Ghana. It's one of our bottlenecks, and we have to be serious about it because Ghana is a very favorable place to do business. To be able to invest about $38 million in the aviation business within 1 year, $88 million in the salt within 2 years, and still be able to procure cargo planes and vessels to be able to connect the continent tells you that it's a favorable place to do business. And when you are doing business in Ghana, luckily, most of our policies are quite friendly, and most of our ministers are really not approachable. They are really not approachable. My problems, if I'll add the last one to what you asked, my problem is for the investors who are coming. As an indigene, it's a favorable place for me. But as a foreigner, it's more favorable place for you. Because foreigners are more protected. But partnering with the local, as the question he asked, partnering with the local make it quite easier for any foreigner who wants to step in there. It limits your risk. And you have protection. You are protected with whatever business you are bringing.
Dan, thank you. And not wishing to start an argument, your comments about the inaccessibility or approachability of ministers, I must admit my personal experience has been that they're probably far too approachable, far too accessible. So I'd be interested to just unpack that point, that comment you made a bit more, please.
I don't want to sit here and hit on my ministers, but some of my ministers. But for me, if you ask me, it's about time they begin to take businessmen in Ghana very seriously. I believe they don't take businessmen in their own country very seriously because we are not protected. And if I have different concepts, the ministers in Ghana have to start running after the businessmen. We are living in a country where businessmen rather run after the ministers. And I am not for that. There's no intelligence in the system to know which sector or which businessman is doing very well in the country. And everything is like free fall. I believe most of the ministers should have intelligence in their various sectors to know who is a big boy in the system. When I was delivering an address somewhere, and I said that countries like Ghana need the big boys. You need big businesses to industrialize. You don't need SMEs. The big businesses give birth to the small business, the SMEs. And a country like America was built on 5 businesses. A country like Japan, Toyota, Nissan, Nokia, and I think 5 companies. So if we concentrate and we deliberately, I'm using the word deliberate attempt from politicians to build businesses, I think Ghana is a small place. I mean, you don't need more than 2-3 companies to raise Ghana to the international level. I am doing salt, and I'm sitting in Ghana, and I've been able, this is not a DFI, to invest $88 million into a project. It's there, everybody is seeing it. I'm sitting in Ghana, and I've spent close to $40 million within a year to open a private jet aviation business. I'm building hangars. I'm bringing MRO into Ghana. Ghana is a very good place. So what is the job of the ministers? The job of the ministers is to look at the indigenous businesses who can pull international business into the country. We can pull a lot into the country. If I can bring a sheikh looking to establish a smelting company for the biggest alumina company in the world, which is Alba. Somebody also can do something. Last 2 weeks, I was called to if I can be able to connect Africa to the Caribbean, to put an airline. I'm not interested in passenger airline, but I saw the need. This morning, I was sitting here and I received a mail from my partners. They have made 2 aircraft available for me to start the route. That Airbus 340-300 and Airbus 340-600. Just this morning, sitting here. This is what we can pull the international business to connect in Africa, especially Ghana.
Thank you very much for that, Dan. And I will invite our Minister to respond in his closing remarks. But moving on to Nora. Nora, I have to applaud you being one of the very early instigators of getting AGOA for Ghana. You clearly understood the value that duty-free access to foreign markets was conducive to building a manufacturing base. It'd be interesting to hear more about how you see that today. You know, Ghana has the EPA with Europe. Does Ghana need that duty-free access because of issues around productivity, or is that an opportunity to create more businesses, more manufacturing base to export?
So what it is duty-free access is the initial reason why buyers are eager to engage with Ghanaian manufacturers. So that's where it begins, but that's not the only thing. And I can take us back to the days of the PSI. You all heard about the president's initiative, special initiative. There were certain key pillar industries that were selected, including garments and textiles. And for very good reason. If we take a country like the US and China, which are now economic giants, they went into manufacturing through garments and textiles. Why? Because we create a lot of jobs in a very short time. But the challenge here is this. All the countries that are successful in that sector, the partnership between public and private sector continues. It's for life. Anyway, we pay corporate taxes, so definitely the government is our partner. It is for life, but for some reason, we let go of this initial injection into that sector to make it successful, hoping that it would carry on. So when buyers come through to our country, their concern is they don't see sustainability because the sector has been left to fend for its own. Our development partners, and the High Commissioner mentioned the kind of support that they are also giving to the sector. This is why there's a win-win situation. The country that offers duty-free access also benefits by getting competitive products onto their markets. So they have a great interest in our success. But then they also need to see what we do on the ground. And that is where there is a bit of a challenge. And my friend Dan mentioned the importance of deliberate action. So I've been in industry for over 4 decades now. When I entered into the garment sector, the sector employed over 25,000 or so employees. But of course, with WTO policies and so on, there was the competition that we were not prepared for at the time. But there's still buyer interest. There's Germany that's interested in supporting us, and the US government, through USAID, has injected a lot of support. We always mention just one factory in Ghana that's exporting to the US. I want us to change that narrative as a country, because we are not attractive to buyers if there's only one successful factory. And this is why I've been trying to engage our Honorable Minister of Trade and Industry. We need to address this very quickly, because what it is there are African countries who came through to learn from us in Ghana. My factory has always been open to other entrepreneurs, because I believe more in looking at collaboration than worrying about competition. It's a huge market. Some figures were given to us by, was it JET? You know, it's a really huge market. There's space for every manufacturer. But now countries are being run like businesses. And ideas get taken from one country to the other. And if we're not careful and we get surrounded by others who have taken our ideas to work on it even better, because, for instance, there's a country that's offering to support the payment of wages and salaries for a year and a half, for good reason. You know, you generate a lot of employment within a short time. There's also infrastructure. It is a lot of investment already to bring in equipment, to give skills training, and our government has done great. You know, through the CT VET program, there's skills training being offered in partnership with the private sector. There's also Amistad, which is a new university for skills training and entrepreneurial development. I serve on that governing board. That it's all about improving skills. If you look at developed economies, you know, this is how they have reached up there. Skills training, talent, entrepreneurial development is so key. So all of that is being taken care of. And when we talk about finance, there's now the Development Bank, Development Bank Ghana. Again, I serve on that board. I told you I wear a number of hats for very good reason. That long experience in industry, it should be of value to my country. You saw a video shown before we sat up here. That was my factory. That was during the COVID pandemic. I received a national award, or my company did, for helping save lives. We were manufacturing over 60 million masks per day at a point in time. And what did I do? Even though I cannot call out the billions that Dan does, and is very impressive, I have a lot of respect for you. My investment has been in the lives of the Ghanaian people, especially women. There is no region that has not benefited from Sleek Garments Export Limited. And this is why a company like mine should, as he says, should have been receiving more support than I receive, because buyers will continue to speak to me. I speak the right language because I understand what they want, what they need. I'm able to give the sort of information that would help make our training that beneficial. We must remember that development partners investing in our country, they also have an agenda. It's not their duty to make us that successful. It's up to us to know what we require. So we need to work, as Dan said, with those with the experience. It's a push and pull sort of a thing. Push those who have reached far, have accessed global markets, and we pull along those coming from the ground. But if we continue to look down there, I'll confess to you, I'm right now in an abyss. I mean, in a gap. There is nothing within the system for a woman entrepreneur who's come from one sewing machine to over 300 machines. There's no support system right now. So this is why I jumped into the system of trying to help redesign some of these areas. But it's not easy. Okay. It's not easy. There has to be the listening. There has to be the readiness. There has to be the understanding of what one can offer, what I can offer to my country.
Thank you, Nora.
I
Thank you ever so
speak with a lot
much.
of passion.
Indeed you do. Minister, just coming to you for closing remarks. You know, we've heard the policy, we've heard the support that's available, we've heard the opportunities, but we've also heard some of the challenges. So very quickly, because I know people in the room are quite hungry for their lunch, but please, closing remarks.
We're going to respond. But Minister for Energy, Minister for Private, Minister for Tourism, the Agriculture Minister is in here. I'm surprised that the accusation is that, make a note of it, because this matter will be discussed at Cabinet, obviously. I am surprised that the accusation is that we are not affable enough. My door literally is open. It's not shut. I do know his for certain. A lot of people, since I assumed that position, have been to the office. Quite a lot of them, literally. Sometimes I close about 10 in the night. I've heard about his name. He hasn't been to my office before. I haven't seen his face before. But now he tells me the reason why I haven't seen him. He says we should be looking for him. And that, again, I suspect is the new way of doing business. Cabinet should know about this, and this matter will have to be discussed. And this is His name is synonymous with quite a lot of things back in Ghana, and to hear him reeling out the list is quite impressive. We congratulate him, except that I don't know how many of our colleagues, our nationals, have that sort of pocket. Minister for Energy, you have to be telling me about this. So congratulations to him. But we will take this matter up because it is a national policy, it's a governmental decision to develop our industrial base, to develop our manufacturing, to become industrialized, just like the other countries have become industrialized. If it takes ministers to run after the likes of him to get our country industrialized, that is small chicken price to pay for that. We certainly will do that. But let me put it on record. He has been told, or he was called from somewhere from the Caribbean, that he should start an airline. What those people didn't tell him is that the idea was mooted by Fifi Grant, myself, other government officials 2 weeks ago, specifically on the 23rd of July this year. In Guyana, this matter came up, and the matter, Magdan's name was specifically mentioned by either him or Gabi or a couple of them, that they are the businessmen, they are in air transportation. If it's possible, contact him. And I think it is on the back of that that you had that invitation. Get on with it.
Minister, thank you. We have, if people have the tolerance, take 1 or 2 questions, and then we'll close for lunch.
So we'll take
3 questions. Okay, so 3 questions from the floor. Okay. If you can say your name and say where you're from, please.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Efia Enimwa Ajuman. I'm from London here. I think one of the major issues facing the manufacturing industry in Ghana is marketing and branding. I'm saying this because people have the perception that the locally produced products are inferior to that of the imported goods. And so what are we doing to create the awareness that the quality of the products that we produce in Ghana is of the same quality to the imported ones? Okay. And also, how can we make the Ghana-made products competitive in the global market? For example, I can cite an example like Kantanka Motors and all that. People have that perception that Toyota, Volvo, and et cetera, are of more quality than what we are producing locally in Ghana. The One District, One Factory is a very good initiative.
We're limited for time,
what are we
so
going
just
to
one
do to
question.
create that awareness? Thank you very much.
Any other questions from the floor?
There's one here at the
please?
front and another in the middle, and then we're good to go. Just hold on, please.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Kingsley Edumata Ejapong, OFAK, MPP UK chairman. First of all, let me congratulate the panel, more especially our lady, the 2 ladies, but my sister in the middle. And Magdan, you have done a great job. Ghana have heard you. The world have heard you. Now, there's one thing that I have always been talking about, even on radio and TV, even in Ghana. But now, because our ministers are here, I want to send this message again for us to take it to the government. So I believe that Ghana have to deliberately, and I use the word deliberate, to empower such people like Magdan, even if it's the government leading such powerful people. We have 16 regions in our country.
Sorry,
even if we are, 1 second please.
Come to the question.
Even if we are, it's not a question, I'm just saying something to them. Now, if we are able to create that workspace and empower these ones who have already been there, lead them, even if the government have to guarantee for them to get billions of dollars of loan, which they are going to be paying by themselves, not the government, they can create that working space for us than the government doing it themselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, final question. So we've got 1 question on standards. Final question, please.
from Empomat. I have two questions, just simple.
Just one question, please.
Yes, the first one is, okay, when you bring investors to Ghana, the registration process that we go through to open a company, I want to tell Minister if they can work on it. For example, in UK here, when we register a company, just 5 minutes, you get your company certificate, you get everything done. So simple, you don't go through stress. But when we come back to Ghana, trust me, we go through stress. Sometimes it takes 1 month, 2 months. So sometimes investment get discouraged. So we need to work on it. Then again, my doctor, McDan, said something great, and for creating big boys. He's very good in the industry, in the business realm. When you're in university right now, or you are in Ghana, it's very difficult to open up a company because of the process. For example, they require you to get a secretary who has a degree or diploma in secretary. How many young guys starting business or bringing investors into the country will go and get all those things? And those people might get something from them before they append their signature. So the registration process in Ghana, in terms of the secretary, if you can go back to where McDan used to be, the big guys, I believe it will work, where they don't go through any process. So that if you are not been to school and you have entrepreneurship mind, you can register a company and you start. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, so just to summarize, we have one question regarding standards and how...
One question, quite a lot of hands here. Let me answer the first one, and you take the rest out with the rest. It's emphatically untrue with respect that in Ghana, it takes about months to establish company. Completely untrue. If it used to be the case, it's no longer the case. I tell you, it depends on where you go for assistance. You can get it literally within the hour, get the processes. It's all been now, digitalized. You just go in there. The lady, the boss, she's a very affable. Now we go to Ghana with a particular phrase, affable, approachable, very nice lady. Her doors are open, so try it again. It'll take you less than a day to complete the process.
Thank you, Minister.
You wanted to contribute to that? Or? Thank you very much.
Okay. So we had a question about pride in Ghanaian products and standards. Nora, would you like to take that?
Unfortunately, when you sit on a panel, there's not much time to share. So I may have looked at things from one angle according to your question. But Ghana is a country of opportunities. There are many startup companies, manufacturing. There's GEPA here. There are trade shows and so on that they take entrepreneurs of a certain level to. There's support, there's training, so that quality is right. I mentioned about skills training and skills development. That is also being taken care of, and it's in partnership with manufacturers like myself. These trade shows are critical, and this is why I said duty-free access is always the initial attraction to speak to manufacturers from Ghana. So there's a lot being done, and if you go on social media, you'll find the Ghanaian is very innovative, and the space is vast. I would want to encourage you. I wasn't trying to put anybody off. I was just talking about once you take your business to a certain level, it is important for the support to be in there. But there is space. There is social media and so on to market your products. And people are doing very well. They're using courier services locally to supply markets. And there are inquiries from all around the globe for products. So there's a lot being done.
Thank you, Nora. Solomon, you wanted to come in, and last comment from Nana, and then we'll finish this session.
Just very quickly, to address an undercurrent I think I've heard about supporting Ghanaians. Just to know, I mentioned that we've invested in 13 infrastructure projects. Every single project that we've invested in, we've backed a Ghanaian sponsor and a Ghanaian investor. And not only have we provided financing, we've also provided the benefit of our expertise to help them raise additional financing internationally as well as locally for their projects. So as a Ghanaian-owned investment institution, we take the support of the Ghanaian entrepreneur very, very seriously, and it's part of what we do.
Thank you. Nana, final word from you.
So I just wanted to add to that to say we take localization very seriously. Government of Ghana takes localization very seriously. And when you look at, for example, the auto sector, and I think Yofi mentioned that we're not just stopping at the VWs. So actually, we're currently supporting Kantanka. We're bringing them to the UK to syndicate. So we're looking downstream, because actually, if you bring FDI in and you don't partner that and you don't localize that, you lose the opportunity downstream to SMEs. So that is happening. There's also an undercurrent about government has to support. And I think I'm not being blunt, but I want to be very clear that, this is where there are choices, right? So government has to make choices, because as you know, we're in an IMF program. There's not enough incentives to go around. So every time we do a policy, investors say, can we have this, can we have that, can we have that? But I think that's where Ghana is actually defining its anchor sectors. And one of the anchor sectors, for example, is salt, automotive, or agri-processing, and even looking deeper to see what parts of those value chains can we actually support with policy, what bits can we provide fiscal incentives. So these are really hard choices, and I just wanted to just make that clear that there is an approach and it can be done, but it can't be done for everything. And lastly, on packaging, I think that, I don't know what the question on packaging is, that is shifting. You only have to go to Instagram, you only have to see the new trade data where you're seeing the quality, the sheer quality of Ghanaian products being changed, and it's a lot of trade in Ghanaian products. So I think that's shifting. I mean, Nora talked about it. Ghana's exporting garments are the same quality as Vietnam or as Bangladesh. So that is happening. I think one of the last things is that we're not communicating Ghana's industrial transformation enough. And I think it's a point that we take away with the minister to say there is lots of things happening in agro-processing. There's lots of things happening. Can we publicize the fact that there are domestic companies that are doing really well, as well as international companies coming in? So there's a story there that it's going to take some time, but it is happening, and I think we need to communicate that a bit better, and we're working with the government on that.
Thank you very much. And round of applause for the panel members, please. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for the amazing